Lila sat at the long birthday table, her small hands resting near the edge of the white tablecloth. The restaurant lights above her glowed softly, making the birthday candles reflect in her eyes even though they were not lit yet. The cake in front of her was big, colorful, and beautiful, pink frosting, tiny flowers, and her name written in golden cream. But the seat beside her was empty. And the seat across from her was empty too. In fact, every chair at the table was empty. She was the only one there. People in the restaurant walked past her without stopping. They whispered to each other but never came close. Some of them recognized her because she was the daughter of one of the richest CEOs in the city. A few waiters knew her story too, that she was disabled from childhood and moved around in a wheelchair. But even with that knowledge, no one came to sit with her or talk to her. They only looked at her for a moment and then quickly looked away, as if afraid of getting too close to her sadness. Lila tried to smile. She held her breath and told herself she was strong. She told herself she didn't mind being alone. She told herself birthdays were just normal days. But the truth she tried to hide kept rising inside her. She wanted someone, anyone, to sit with her. She wanted someone to say, "Happy birthday." She wanted to feel loved. She wanted to feel seen. But right now, she felt like a small candle burning alone in a dark room. Her father had promised he would come. He was supposed to arrive at 6 p.m. She kept checking the time. At first, she was excited. She imagined him walking through the restaurant door with a smile and maybe even a little gift. She imagined him sitting next to her and asking her to blow the candles. She imagined him taking pictures with her and posting them proudly. She imagined feeling normal for once. But the clock kept moving. And her father did not come. He was a busy CEO. Meetings controlled his life. Important people called him every hour. He had thousands of workers waiting for his decisions. But Lila had been waiting longer than all of them. She had been waiting for years, to be seen as a daughter, not as another responsibility on his long list. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was her birthday. Tonight, she wanted just one thing, her father's time. The restaurant staff watched her from a distance. A few waitresses felt sorry for her. One whispered to another, "Poor girl, no one's here for her." Another said softly, "She comes every year, always alone." They wished they could sit with her, but they were afraid of crossing rules or upsetting her father. So they simply stood near their stations, pretending not to see her loneliness. Lila stared at the cake again. 12 candles. She was turning 12. Her eyes moved slowly over each candle, imagining the people who should have been sitting around the table. She imagined classmates who claimed to be too busy. She imagined relatives who hadn't visited in years. She imagined her father sitting at the head of the table, proud and smiling. But all of that was only in her mind. None of it was happening. Outside the restaurant windows, the city lights twinkled. Cars moved quickly on the road. People laughed on the sidewalks. Life was full and loud out there. But inside Lila's small corner of the restaurant, everything felt slow, quiet, and heavy. She rested her chin on her hand and looked at the cake with a tired expression. She wondered how many birthdays she would spend like this. She wondered if next year would be the same. She wondered if something was wrong with her. She wondered if she was difficult to love. A small child at another table pointed at her cake. "Mommy, look. A birthday cake," he said with excitement. His mother quickly told him to eat his food and not stare. Lila looked down, embarrassed. Even children had better birthdays than her. Children had parents who cared enough to sit with them. She wondered why her life was so different. She looked at the candle wicks again, dry, untouched, waiting for a flame. She thought about lighting them herself. Maybe she could celebrate alone. She could sing, "Happy Birthday," quietly. She could cut a small piece and pretend someone was cheering for her. But the thought made her chest hurt. She didn't want to pretend. She wanted reality. She wanted someone real. Minutes passed. People kept walking by. Her father still didn't come. Lila's smile finally broke. Her lips trembled. She looked down at her wheelchair, at her small legs resting motionless on the footrest. Sometimes she wondered if people avoided her because of her condition. Sometimes she wondered if her father avoided her for the same reason. She wiped her eyes quickly before anyone noticed. She didn't want to cry. She didn't want to seem weak. But she felt weak. She felt like her heart was getting smaller and smaller inside her chest. And then, at the far side of the restaurant, someone entered. A man. Tall, wearing simple clothes. A black single dad holding the hand of a small boy. They looked happy, laughing together. They didn't belong to her world of silence and loneliness. But in just a few moments, their presence would change everything in her life. Marcus walked into the restaurant with his 7-year-old son, Caleb, both of them holding hands, both smiling after a long day. Marcus was a hard-working single father, raising his son alone after losing his wife years ago. Today was supposed to be a small celebration for Caleb. Not a birthday, not a big event, just a simple treat because Caleb had done well in school. Marcus always tried to reward his boy, even if he didn't have much money. They chose this restaurant because Caleb loved the shining lights and the big dessert menu. The moment they stepped in, Caleb's attention was pulled in one direction immediately. His small eyes widened as he noticed the huge birthday cake sitting untouched on a table. But more than the cake, he noticed the girl beside it. A quiet girl in a wheelchair. Alone. No balloons. No friends. No family. No happiness. Just silence. Caleb tugged softly on his father's hand. "Dad," he whispered, "why is she sitting alone at her birthday cake?" Marcus looked up. He hadn't noticed her at first, but now he saw exactly what Caleb saw. A little girl, with long, neat hair, dressed nicely, trying her best not to look sad. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her eyes moved from the cake to the door, waiting for someone who wasn't coming. He recognized that expression. It was the look of a child who had learned disappointment too early. Marcus placed a hand on his son's head. "I'm not sure, buddy," he said softly. "Maybe she's waiting for someone." "But no one is coming," Caleb said quietly. "She looks lonely, like she wants to cry." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He remembered nights when Caleb was smaller and cried for his mother, nights when an empty chair at the dinner table felt like the whole world had collapsed. He remembered what it felt like to be alone and helpless. He didn't want any child to feel that way, no matter who she was. He crouched down to Caleb's level. "Do you think we should do something?" he asked gently. Caleb nodded immediately. "Yes. Let's go talk to her." Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to make the girl uncomfortable. He didn't want her or her family to misunderstand. In a place filled with wealthy people, he often felt out of place. His clothes were simple. His job was simple. His life was simple. He didn't belong in the world of CEOs and luxury dining. But his heart didn't care about status. His heart cared about kindness. He looked again at the girl. Her shoulders were slightly shaking, as if she was holding back tears. That was enough for him. "All right," he said softly to Caleb. "Let's go." They began walking toward her table. Each step felt slow and thoughtful. Marcus didn't want to rush. He wanted to approach gently, with respect. When they reached her table, the girl looked up in surprise. Her eyes widened slightly, unsure if she should be scared or hopeful. Marcus offered a small, warm smile. "Hi there," he said kindly. "I hope we're not bothering you." Lila blinked. She looked from Marcus to Caleb. Caleb smiled shyly and waved. "Hi," he whispered. Lila swallowed, her voice tiny. Hello. Marcus glanced at the cake. It looks like a beautiful birthday cake, he said. Are you celebrating today? Lila nodded slowly. Yes. I'm 12 today. Caleb gasped. Wow. Happy birthday. Lila gave the smallest smile. Thank you. Marcus noticed the untouched candles. Has anyone lit the candles yet? He asked gently. Lila shook her head. No one is here yet. Marcus understood what that meant. Her father wasn't coming. No friends were coming. No one even planned to show up. This girl was about to spend her birthday without a single voice singing to her. Caleb looked at his dad with pleading eyes. Marcus gave him a nod. He kneeled beside Lila's wheelchair so his face was level with hers. His voice became softer, kinder, almost like a whisper meant only for her. Would it be okay if we joined you for your birthday? Lila froze. The words hit her like a small miracle. She looked at Marcus, unsure if she had heard correctly. Why you want to join me? Marcus nodded. Only if you want us to. Caleb leaned forward with excitement. Please let us. I want to sing for you. Lila's eyes filled with sudden warmth. Someone cared. Someone saw her. Someone wanted to be with her, not out of duty, not out of guilt, but out of kindness. She took a shaky breath and whispered, yes. I would like that very much. At that moment, something invisible shifted around them, like a lonely heart finally being touched after years of silence. The moment Lila said, yes, something gentle and warm spread across the table, like a light that had been waiting to shine for a long time. Marcus smiled softly, and Caleb almost bounced in excitement. It was the kind of joy that only children could show, pure, innocent, and without hesitation. Can we sit here? Marcus asked politely. Lila nodded. She didn't trust her voice. She was afraid that if she spoke too loudly, she might cry. Marcus pulled a chair near her, and Caleb quickly took the seat closest to the cake. The huge restaurant suddenly felt smaller, more intimate, as if the world had decided to pause just for them. Caleb leaned forward eagerly. Can I help light the candles? He asked. Lila looked at the candles again. For hours, those candles had stayed untouched, waiting for a celebration that never came. Now, a small child wanted to help. Her heart fluttered. Yes, she whispered. Please. Marcus called a waiter softly. Can we have a lighter, please? He asked. The waiter, who had been watching from afar, hurried over with a smile. He seemed relieved to see someone finally caring for the girl. Caleb held the lighter with both hands while Marcus guided him, helping him ignite each candle one by one. As each flame rose, the shadows around the table softened. The cake, once a sad centerpiece of loneliness, now glowed with life. Lila watched the candles, her eyes shimmering, reflecting each tiny flame. You ready to sing? Marcus asked Caleb. Caleb took a deep breath like he was preparing for the biggest performance of his life. Then, without waiting another second, he started singing Happy Birthday with a loud, excited voice. Marcus joined in softly, matching the rhythm. A few people in nearby tables turned their heads and smiled. Even some waiters, who had watched Lila suffer in silence earlier, stopped what they were doing to listen. Lila had never had such a moment. Not once. No one had sung for her like this before. Her father always bought expensive gifts, phones, dresses, dolls, but he never gave her moments like this. Moments filled with warmth, laughter, and real human connection. Halfway through the song, Lila's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink them away, but one tear slipped out, rolling down her cheek. Caleb noticed and suddenly stopped singing. Did I sing wrong? He asked, worried. Lila shook her head quickly. No, no. You sang perfect. I'm just happy." Caleb gave a relieved grin and continued the song even louder, making Lila laugh through her tears. When the song ended, Marcus leaned closer. "Make a wish," he said softly. Lila looked at the candles. She had never believed in wishes. Wishes were for children with families. Wishes were for kids with people who cared. But tonight, for the first time in her life, she felt a small spark of hope. She closed her eyes. She wished for someone to stay. She wished for someone to care. She wished to never feel this alone again. Then she gently blew out the candles. The flames disappeared, leaving a thin trail of smoke that curled into the air like a tiny prayer. Caleb clapped loudly. "Yay!" Marcus laughed. "That was great." Lila smiled, a real smile. A smile she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you both." "You're welcome," Caleb replied proudly. A waiter approached with plates. "Would you like me to cut the cake for you?" he asked. Lila nodded, still smiling. Caleb watched closely as the waiter sliced the cake into neat pieces. When Lila was given the first slice, Caleb's eyes widened again. "That's a big piece," he whispered. "It's my birthday," Lila said teasingly. "Then you should have an even bigger one," Caleb said. Marcus chuckled. "Caleb, let her enjoy this one first." They all took bites of the cake. It tasted sweet, soft, and warm, just like the moment. Lila felt comfortable. Comfortable enough to ask her first question. "So, you two came here for a celebration too?" Marcus wiped frosting from Caleb's mouth. "Not exactly. Just a small treat for Caleb. He passed a test at school today." Caleb raised his chin proudly. "I got a gold star." Lila smiled. "That's amazing." Caleb leaned closer to her. "And your cake is amazing." For the first time tonight, she giggled. As they talked and laughed, something beautiful was happening, something Lila had never experienced. A real connection. A real friendship. A father and son who didn't know her, didn't care about her family name, didn't judge her wheelchair, they simply saw her as a child who needed company. But far across the restaurant, the door opened. And a tall, well-dressed man walked in, looking around with a tense expression. Lila didn't see him yet. Marcus didn't notice him. Caleb was too busy eating cake. But the restaurant staff saw him immediately. The CEO had finally arrived. The celebration at the table felt warm and natural, almost like a small family gathering that happened by accident. Lila was laughing softly at Caleb's jokes, Marcus was enjoying the peaceful moment, and even the restaurant staff felt lighter seeing the girls so happy. For a while, it didn't matter that the world outside was loud and complicated. Here, at this table, everything was simple. Everything was pure. Lila took another bite of cake, smiling at Caleb as he tried to balance a strawberry on top of his fork. "You're going to drop it," she warned gently. "No, I won't," Caleb said while leaning too far. And of course, the strawberry slipped off the fork and hit his shirt. "Oh no!" Caleb gasped. Marcus laughed. "That's what happens when you show off." Even Lila let out a giggle. Her laughter was soft, like a melody that had been locked away for years and was finally free. But while the three of them shared this small joy, something else was happening in the background. A tall man in a suit had entered the restaurant. His eyes were sharp, scanning the room with impatience. His steps were fast and heavy. This man was used to control, to power, to authority. And his expression showed he wasn't happy. It was Lila's father, Mr. Donovan, one of the richest CEOs in the city. He checked his phone again, realizing he was late. He had told Lila he would arrive by 6, but his meeting dragged on. As usual, business won over family. He hurried toward the private dining section, expecting to find his daughter sitting quietly and waiting for him, like always. But what he saw instead stopped him in his tracks. His daughter was not alone. She was smiling. Laughing. Surrounded by two strangers. His eyebrows pulled together. His jaw tightened. His anger rose. Marcus noticed the sudden shift first. He sensed tension, the kind that enters a room even before the person speaks. He looked up and saw the man approaching fast, with a look that was anything but friendly. Caleb didn't notice anything. He was too busy licking frosting off his fingers. Lila noticed last. When she finally turned her head and saw her father standing a few steps away, her smile froze. Her shoulders stiffened. Her hands curled slightly. The joy on her face slowly faded as fear and disappointment settled in its place. Mr. Donovan's voice boomed before he got close enough. "Lila," he snapped. "What is going on here?" The entire restaurant turned silent. The waiters stopped moving. The diners paused mid-bite. Even the birthday candles seemed to stop flickering. Lila lowered her eyes. "Dad. Her father didn't look at her. His attention was on Marcus and Caleb. "Who are you people?" he demanded sharply. "Why are you sitting with my daughter? What do you want from her?" Marcus rose slowly from his chair. He stayed calm, even though the CEO's tone was harsh. "Sir, we didn't want anything. She was sitting alone. We just joined her so she wouldn't celebrate by herself." "You joined her?" Mr. Donovan repeated, shocked. "Without permission? Without asking anyone?" Caleb finally sensed the tension. He held on to Marcus's sleeve, confused and frightened. Marcus placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder and spoke with respect. "I understand your concern. But she looked lonely. We just wanted to help her feel happy on her special day." Mr. Donovan scoffed. "My daughter is not someone random people can just walk up to. You don't understand who she is." At that, something inside Lila cracked. She looked up at her father with watery eyes. "Dad, they didn't do anything wrong." "Lila, stay quiet. I'm handling this," he said, still not meeting her eyes. Marcus's voice remained steady. "With all due respect, sir, she wasn't fine. She was alone. She was sad." Mr. Donovan opened his mouth to argue, but Lila finally gathered her courage. Her voice was small but firm. "They cared about me." Her father froze. "They sang for me," she said, her voice trembling. "They celebrated with me. You didn't come." The truth hung in the air like a heavy weight. Everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. Mr. Donovan's posture shifted. His anger faltered. The harshness on his face slowly faded, replaced by something he rarely allowed, shame. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He looked at Marcus, then at Caleb, then at the cake, the candles, the plates, the smiles he had missed. And then he finally looked at his daughter. A daughter he had forgotten again. The silence that followed was heavy. Even the restaurant's warm light seemed dimmer as Mr. Donovan stood frozen, staring at his daughter as if seeing her clearly for the first time that night. Lila lowered her gaze, her fingers gripping the armrest of her wheelchair as fear and sadness mixed inside her chest. She didn't want to embarrass her father. She didn't want to speak against him. She only wanted him to understand how lonely she had been. Marcus gently stepped forward, keeping his posture calm and respectful. "Sir," he said softly, "I'm sorry if this situation upset you. But we didn't mean any harm. Your daughter looked like she needed company. That's all." Mr. Donovan's jaw clenched again. He didn't want to seem weak in front of strangers. His entire life, he had been taught that emotions were distractions, weakness. He had built his empire by being strong, strict, and focused. But now, looking at his daughter with tears in her eyes, he felt something break inside him. Caleb, still holding Marcus's sleeve, looked up at the CEO with innocent confusion. "We were just having cake," he said quietly. She looked sad. Those small words stabbed deeper into Mr. Donovan's heart than any argument could. A child saw his daughter's sadness before he did. A child cared for her more than he had tonight. Lila finally whispered, "Dad, please don't be mad at them." Her voice trembled, and that tremble shook Mr. Donovan more than any business failure ever had. He took a slow breath. His voice softened slightly, though it still carried guilt. "Lila, you should have called me. I got delayed." Lila blinked, the hurt plain in her eyes. "I did call," she said softly. "You didn't pick up." Marcus noticed how the words hit him hard. Mr. Donovan looked away for a moment, unable to face that truth. Caleb, with his innocent honesty, added, "You missed the candle lighting. And the singing. It was really nice." Marcus touched Caleb's shoulder lightly, signaling him to stop talking. But the damage, or rather, the awakening, was already happening. Mr. Donovan finally moved closer to his daughter. He crouched down so he could be at eye level with her, something he rarely did. His voice was lower now, carrying regret instead of anger. "Lila. I'm sorry." She looked up at him, surprised. Apologies were rare from him. Very rare. "I should have been here," he continued. "I should have made time. I shouldn't have left you alone on your birthday." A tiny, fragile tear rolled down Lila's cheek. She didn't speak, but the way she looked at him showed how much those words mattered. Marcus watched quietly, feeling the emotional shift. He kept his distance, giving father and daughter their space. For the first time in years, Mr. Donovan noticed the vulnerability in her eyes. The disappointment she carried. The loneliness she had learned to hide behind polite smiles. And he finally understood the truth: money, power, and success meant nothing if he couldn't show up for the one person who needed him most. He reached forward, gently brushing a tear off her cheek. "You deserve better from me," he whispered. A shaky exhale left Lila's lips. "Dad. I just wanted you here." Those 6 words shattered every wall he had built around his heart. He swallowed hard. "I know. And I'm truly sorry." Marcus stepped forward a little, sensing the father was no longer angry. "Sir," he said respectfully, "your daughter is wonderful. She has a warm heart. We only wanted her to feel celebrated." Mr. Donovan nodded slowly. "I appreciate what you did." He looked at Marcus with genuine gratitude now. "Thank you for being there when I wasn't." Marcus offered a small smile. "It was our pleasure." Caleb lifted his frosting-covered hand. "We had fun too." For the first time that night, the CEO almost smiled. He looked around the table, the half-eaten cake, the empty plates, the candles blown out earlier, the warmth that filled what used to be a lonely space. He straightened up, took a deep breath, and said something completely unexpected. "Would all of you stay a little longer? I'd like to celebrate with my daughter too." Lila's eyes widened with hope. "Really?" "Yes," he said, his voice gentle. "Really?" Marcus glanced at Caleb. Caleb nodded excitedly. "Yes. Let's stay." For the first time that night, the table felt complete. For the first time in years, Lila felt like her birthday had truly begun. And for the first time in forever, her father finally seemed ready to change. The air around the table slowly softened. The tension that once filled the room began to fade, replaced by something warm, something gentle, something new. Lila could hardly believe her father had asked them to stay. She had never seen him like this before, open, quiet, almost humble. It felt like the beginning of something she had been waiting for her whole life. Mr. Donovan took the seat beside his daughter. Not across the table. Not at the head of the table like a CEO sitting in a boardroom. No. He sat right next to her, the way a real father should sit. Lila looked at him with surprise, as if she wasn't sure this was real. Marcus remained calm and respectful, sitting opposite them with Caleb still happily eating cake. The little boy's innocence made the atmosphere lighter. "So," Mr. Donovan began awkwardly, clearing his throat, "did you all enjoy the cake?" Caleb nodded quickly. "Yes. It's delicious." And Lila got the biggest piece. Because it's her special day. Lila smiled shyly and looked at her father. "I saved you a slice too, if you want." Her father blinked. That small gesture touched him more deeply than he expected. "I'd like that," he said softly. A waiter brought him a plate, and he took a bite. "It's good," he said genuinely. "Very good." Caleb leaned toward Marcus and whispered loudly, "He likes it." Marcus smiled. "I can hear him, buddy." Even Lila giggled. It felt like a moment that shouldn't have been possible, a CEO, a disabled girl, a single dad, and a 7-year-old boy all sharing cake like a small, mismatched but happy family. Mr. Donovan finally turned to Marcus. "You said, she looked lonely when you came in." Marcus nodded. "Yes. She was sitting alone. We just wanted to make sure she didn't feel forgotten." The CEO swallowed hard. "I failed her," he admitted quietly, almost to himself. "I keep failing her." "Dad," Lila whispered, touching his sleeve gently. "You're here now." Those simple words softened something inside him again. He placed his hand over hers. "I should have been here earlier." "It's okay," she said softly, though her eyes hinted that it hadn't been okay for a long time. But instead of turning away or hiding from the truth as he usually did, Mr. Donovan stayed present. He looked into her eyes and said the words she needed. "I will do better." Lila's eyes watered again, but this time from hope, not sadness. To ease the emotional weight, Caleb excitedly pointed at the unused decorations. "Can we put the balloons around her chair? It will look like a real birthday." Lila laughed. "Sure." Marcus helped Caleb untie the stringed balloons and attach them to Lila's wheelchair handles. They bounced and floated softly behind her, transforming the chair into something cheerful instead of something she was embarrassed of. Mr. Donovan watched, amazed at how naturally Marcus and Caleb treated his daughter. No pity. No awkwardness. Just kindness. "Dad, look," Lila said as the last balloon was attached. "It's like a little parade." Mr. Donovan chuckled quietly. "It looks perfect." A few diners smiled at the scene. One of the waitresses whispered to another, "I've never seen her this happy." As the moment grew warmer, Mr. Donovan finally asked the question that had been on his mind since he walked in. "Marcus, you're a single father?" Marcus nodded. "Yes. It's just me and Caleb." "And you did all this for my daughter even though you don't know her?" Marcus smiled softly. "Sometimes you don't need to know someone to be kind. Sometimes you just see a child who needs company." Caleb added proudly, "And I wanted her to have the best birthday ever." Lila covered her face for a second, shy but glowing with joy. "You both already did more than anyone ever has." Mr. Donovan's heart ached hearing that. How long had she felt this alone? How many birthdays had she spent waiting for him? How many moments had he missed? He exhaled deeply. "Lila. I want you to tell me something honestly." She looked up. "Yes. Are you happy right now?" She didn't hesitate. She looked at Marcus. She looked at Caleb. She looked at the balloons, the cake crumbs, the warm smiles. Then she looked at her father and whispered, "Yes." For the first time. Marcus felt something warm in his chest. Caleb grinned. And Mr. Donovan felt tears threaten to rise, tears he quickly forced back with a slow breath. Well then, he said, voice thick with emotion, let's make sure this is only the beginning of many good birthdays. Lila smiled through her watery eyes. And for the first time, it felt like her small world was finally expanding, with kindness, with laughter, and maybe, with a new kind of family. The evening slowly shifted into something none of them expected. What began as a lonely birthday had become a moment filled with warmth and unexpected connections. Lila felt lighter, her heart no longer sitting heavy inside her chest. She looked from Marcus to Caleb to her father, amazed at how life could change in just a few minutes. Moments earlier, she had been alone. Now she was surrounded by people who truly cared. Mr. Donovan kept glancing at his daughter as if memorizing her smile. He had seen her smile before, but not like this. This smile had life. It had warmth. It had meaning. And every time she laughed with Caleb or looked gratefully at Marcus, guilt twisted inside him. How had he missed so much? How had he allowed his work to swallow the most important part of his life? A waiter approached politely. Would you like anything else? Drinks? More desserts, he asked. Before the CEO answered, Caleb raised his hand excitedly. Chocolate milk, he shouted. Lila giggled. Me too. Mr. Donovan couldn't help smiling. 2 chocolate milks, please. And some for us grown-ups as well. Marcus nodded. Just a coffee for me. Mr. Donovan ordered the same. The waiter hurried away, amazed at how different the powerful CEO looked tonight, so human, so gentle. When the drinks arrived, Caleb grabbed his glass with both hands. Cheers, he said proudly. Lila clinked her cup against his. Cheers. Even Mr. Donovan joined, softly tapping his coffee cup against hers. Something inside him felt unfamiliar. But not bad. Not uncomfortable. Just, new. Like he was stepping into a world he should have entered years ago. After a few sips, Caleb leaned over the table and whispered loudly, Lila, can I sit next to you? Lila nodded eagerly. Marcus laughed. Go ahead. Caleb slid off his chair and took the seat right beside her. Almost instantly, the two children began chatting about school, favorite games, cartoons, and silly things only kids understood. Their voices blended into an innocent melody that made both men smile. Mr. Donovan watched them with quiet amazement. She doesn't have many friends, he admitted softly to Marcus. Most children avoid her because of her wheelchair. And, maybe because of me too. Marcus looked at him with understanding, not judgment. Kids don't need much, he said gently. Just someone who listens. And someone who shows up. Those words hit the CEO again. Show up. Something he had failed to do again and again. He watched his daughter laugh with Caleb and felt something tighten in his throat. I want to fix things, he said quietly. I don't know how yet, but I want to try. That's a good start, Marcus replied. There was no pride in his voice, no superiority, just honesty and warmth. Mr. Donovan realized something then. Marcus wasn't just a kind stranger. He was a father who had learned how to give his child love, despite all the challenges he'd faced. And in that way, Marcus was richer than him. Lila suddenly turned toward the adults. Dad, she said softly, can we do something together after this? Like, maybe go to the park. Or watch a movie. Or, anything. Her voice trembled, as if she feared the answer. Mr. Donovan inhaled deeply. Yes, he said quickly and firmly. Anything you want. I'm yours for the rest of the evening. Lila's smile grew wide and bright. Marcus saw it. Caleb saw it. The whole restaurant probably saw it. And for the first time in a long time, Mr. Donovan felt like a real father. But then, something unexpected happened. Can Marcus and Caleb come too? Lila asked. Marcus raised an eyebrow slightly, surprised. Caleb looked hopeful. Can we, Dad? Before Marcus could gently decline, for he didn't want to overstep, Mr. Donovan spoke. Yes, he said sincerely. If they'd like to join us, I would be honored. Marcus blinked. Are you sure? Absolutely, the CEO replied. Tonight, none of us should be alone. Those simple words carried enormous meaning. Caleb clapped. Movie night. Lila laughed. With popcorn. Marcus chuckled. All right. Let's not overwhelm your dad. But Mr. Donovan only shook his head with a soft smile. It's not overwhelming. It's nice. And it was. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about meetings, reports, or clients. He was thinking about memories, moments, and people. He was thinking about his daughter's joy. As the evening wrapped up, he stood and gently adjusted Lila's wheelchair. Ready to go, sweetheart? She nodded excitedly. Yes. Caleb grabbed her hand as if they'd been friends for years. Marcus stood beside them, feeling deeply grateful for the chance to change someone's night. But none of them knew that tonight was more than just a birthday rescue. It was the start of a bond that would shape all of their lives in ways they never imagined. When they stepped out of the restaurant, the night air felt cool and gentle, carrying the soft glow of the city lights. It felt like the world had paused just to let this moment happen. Lila sat in her wheelchair between Marcus and her father, while Caleb skipped ahead, humming the birthday song again. For the first time, Lila didn't feel small. She didn't feel invisible. She felt safe. Seen. Important. Her father walked beside her, pushing her wheelchair slowly but carefully. Not in a hurried or distracted way. Not like he was managing a task. But like a father guiding his daughter with love. Lila looked up at him several times, still unsure if this new version of him was real. But every time she looked, he smiled down at her, reassuring, calm, and present. Caleb ran back to them, holding his father's hand. Are we going to watch a movie now? Yes, Lila said happily. My dad said anything I want. Mr. Donovan nodded. Anything. Marcus smiled, noticing how deeply those words meant to Lila. They reached the parking lot, where a luxury car stood beside an older, simple car, Marcus's car. Caleb looked between the two vehicles. Dad, he whispered, should we go in the big car? Marcus crouched down to him. No, buddy. We'll take our car. It doesn't matter what the car looks like. What matters is who's inside. Mr. Donovan overheard and gave Marcus a respectful nod. You both can follow us. The theater isn't far. Lila tugged at her father's sleeve. Can Caleb sit with me in your car? Please. Her father hesitated for a moment, unused to such requests. But he looked at her bright eyes, at her pure joy, and nodded. Of course. Caleb jumped into the air. Yay! Marcus helped him into the CEO's car, making sure he was buckled safely, then leaned down to Caleb. Be polite, okay? And don't touch too many buttons. Caleb saluted dramatically, making everyone laugh. The drive to the theater was peaceful. Lila kept glancing at Caleb beside her, chatting non-stop about superheroes and space adventures. Her father listened, occasionally adding a word or two, but mostly watching his daughter smile through the rearview mirror. He realized how much he had missed, every laugh, every small moment, every little detail that made her who she was. When they arrived, the theater staff recognized the CEO immediately and rushed to greet him. But instead of enjoying the attention, he surprised everyone by waving them off and focusing solely on his daughter. 4 tickets please, he said. And extra popcorn. Caramel and cheese. Caleb added loudly. Both, Lila said with excitement. While they waited for the movie to start, Marcus and Mr. Donovan ended up talking for the first prolonged moment. You're a good father, the CEO said quietly, watching Caleb try to balance popcorn on his head. Marcus chuckled. I try. It's not easy, but he's my world. Mr. Donovan looked at Lila, who was holding Caleb's hand and smiling at the movie posters. I want to be better for her. I want to be present. Marcus gave a warm nod. Then start by being here. Tonight. Tomorrow. As often as you can. The CEO breathed deeply. I will. The movie started, and the four of them settled into their seats. Lila sat between her father and Caleb, holding both of their hands. She felt like her heart might burst with happiness. She had waited so many birthdays for her father to be beside her. And tonight, she finally had it, plus something extra. A friend. Halfway through the movie, Lila leaned her head gently on her father's arm. Mr. Donovan looked down at her, his eyes softening. Slowly, he placed his hand over hers. Not as a CEO. Not as a busy man. But as her dad. When the movie ended, they walked out together, laughing, sharing opinions, and teasing each other. Even the workers at the theater smiled watching them leave. It was rare to see a family so mismatched, yet so perfectly connected. Outside, under the soft glow of the streetlights, Lila turned to Marcus and Caleb. Thank you, she said softly. For everything. You made this the best birthday of my life. Caleb hugged her without hesitation. You're my friend now. Lila hugged him back tightly. Forever. Marcus smiled proudly. Mr. Donovan stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder. Thank you, he said sincerely. Tonight would have been painful for her, without you. Marcus shook his head. Anyone would have done it. No, the CEO said firmly. Not everyone. The two men exchanged a quiet understanding, a bond formed not by wealth or status, but by kindness. As they prepared to part ways, Lila grabbed her father's hand and whispered, Can we see them again? Mr. Donovan looked at Marcus and Caleb. He saw the way his daughter's eyes lit up around them. And he saw the lesson he needed most. Yes, he said softly. As many times as you want. Lila smiled, brighter than the city lights behind her. And so, what began as a lonely birthday became the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with friendship, healing, second chances, and a father finally learning how to love.